Excellent. It feels really good to be here. I was telling Sangeeta in the morning that it feels like homecoming. As you may have seen, that I've been very closely involved with NASSCOM over the last 6 years. It's practically been my second job, and my last company, Fidelity, felt it was my main job. And then I joined Flipkart 4 months back, and then I was totally gone from NASSCOM. So I feel very good to be back. Okay, so before we start, this is the first session, so let's start with a little bit of warm-up. Is that okay? Yeah? So get up, let's rise. So we'll do just some very quick warm-up exercises, a little bit of yoga, just follow me, a little bit of loosening, come on, hey. Come on, thoda faster. Come on guys, faster. Yeah, raise your hands. Make some noise. Itna dheere bas. Joor se. Okay. We'll do some neck rotations. We'll start from the top of the body, go down. Yeah. So neck rotation. If you want, you can close your eyes. 3 turns. Left to right now. Other side. Just keep on following me. Come on. Yeah. This cleans your aura. It's a very nice exercise. Cleans your aura. Okay. Shoulders. Come on. Don't stop. You can't stop in life. Other way. Come on. I've seen you. Okay. Shoulders. Come on. Other way. At the back. Many people at the back are not doing it. What is this? Okay. Wrists. So nice. Do it slowly. So the other way. Okay. Clap. Okay. Little bit of feeling something? I can. Properly, do a full circle. Come on. Other way. Oh. Okay, knees. Are the knees okay? Any sounds coming? Many of you are not doing your knees yet. Come on. Nice sound coming. Let's sit in the chairs. Yes? No, but like this. Yeah, come on. Come on, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Cheers. Get up. Chair again. One more time. Okay. Just your feet. Other way. You can also kick the guy in the front. Other leg. Other leg kick. Just stretch. Stretch up, 3-inch higher, 3-inch higher, 3-inch, 1 more inch, 1 more inch, half inch, quarter inch. Okay. You okay? Can drink water. Okay, so I want to talk to you about leading and leading in uncertainty. Yeah, so I think something which all of us know very well, that the velocity of change that we have today is absolutely unprecedented. My 20-25 years of career, I've just seen that velocity of change increase dramatically. It is the technology megatrends, it is the very rapidly shrinking business cycles. A business cycle that used to be 20 years became 10 years. It's now become 5 years. Feels sometimes that a business cycle is 2 years. The business cycles are crunching. The markets are changing dramatically. So, see, all of these are things that all of you, I'm sure, are very, very well aware of. And I just want to, it is changing the world. It is changing the world for managers, for leaders. How do you really lead in this new world? And as an HR community, it certainly has huge implications for us. It has implications in terms of talent. How do you think about talent? It has implications in terms of organization structures, in terms of performance management, in terms of culture. It has deep set of implications. So I want to share some of my personal beliefs, thoughts on this. So just to start with, I've spent a lot of my career with McKinsey, and the last 6 years with Fidelity, which is one of the world's largest asset management mutual fund companies. And it's a company which is incredibly profitable. So asset management business is just one of the most profitable businesses out there, and Fidelity at the helm of it. And I had the great kind of fortune, opportunity of leading the strategy for Fidelity's international business for 4 years. And I really saw something fascinating happening, that a business which was making 35% return on investment, we knew, given the trends, that will shrink very, very, the next 10 years it would look dramatically different. And then there was this, in life there are always these moments of truth. There are these blink moments. Of course, I was leading strategy and doing all of that, and then we had this whole thing about everybody in Fidelity having to go through agile training. Have you guys ever done that? Agile training? How many of you have done agile training? I think more of you should do that. So I went through this full day agile training course, and I thought I really knew agile and things like that. And when I sat through that, there was kind of this moment of truth, where there was a fact shared that the kind of the lifespan of any requirements is now like 6 months. Yeah. So, and beyond that, the requirements will change. And that was, typically if you just look at a software life cycle, you spend that much time collecting requirements. Yeah. So in that time, the requirements are going to change. How is the world going to change? And as I went through Agile, I kind of realized that it was not just about software development, it was about everything to do with the business, and fundamentally it was about strategy. It was everything you do. And there was really this blink moment where I felt that I thought I was like really top of my game. And I really felt that it was I was becoming a dinosaur. that everything that I knew about strategy, about management, about leadership was maybe not true, was changing, was not relevant. That really was a moment sometime last year where I felt that I had to do something different. And then I started talking to Flipkart. And when I met founders who are 13, 14 years younger to me from the same college, I actually realized that these young guys actually had more life experiences in a far compressed time than I had. Yeah, so I think it was a real, real kind of moment of truth for me. And then I joined Flipkart, and if there is something about volatile and uncertainty and it's mad out there, then it is the e-commerce industry. And Flipkart as the leader of that industry in India is absolutely at the cold face of it. And a couple of months back, I took my team for an offsite, and there was this very nice trainer, who kind of did this exercise. And then, I won't go to the exercise, it will take too much time, but he really brought out this concept of VUCA. How many of you have heard about VUCA? Great. So I don't need to explain that, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, right? You guys know that concept. I somehow had not heard about VUCA till a couple of months back, and it really, that was a second blink moment. If my first blink moment was, I'm becoming a dinosaur, whatever I knew is not relevant anymore, it was my second VUCA moment, that was my second blink moment. And I realized that a lot of our problems happen that most of what we have learned, most of the way we behave is true for a very different world, is true for a more traditional world, a more linear world. Yeah? And the world of today, the environment of today, a VUCA environment, if you try applying the same principles, it just is not going to work. It's not going to work, and that we are seeking for that certainty. We are seeking for that structure. We are seeking for that clarity that is underlying most of our behaviors, and it just ain't there. It just ain't there, and that is the root of a lot of the problems that companies face and a lot of the problems that leaders face. Yeah. So I've been reflecting on it. So I want to share with you 6 kind of beliefs or paradigms that I believe in. I'm going to share beliefs, so I won't necessarily go into the how-to of them. And this is by no means a final truth, because I think it's a fascinating, evolving topic. VUCA itself is a VUCA topic, so there can only be some thoughts on that. But here are 6 things that I want to share with you, and then I would love to have time for a discussion. So the first belief of leading in a VUCA world is just around speed and agility. The speed and agility. And agility is not just about, as I mentioned earlier, it is not just about agile methodologies. Of course you need them. But it's not just about them. I think fundamentally the way companies have thought about strategy, there needs to be a change in that. Yeah, you need to have a more agile, a more light touch approach to strategy. The whole notion of strategic planning and having 5-year, kind of roadmaps and kind of plans just does not make sense. There are so many variables that even a scenario planning is not going to work. Because you will need to, given the number of variables in a VUCA environment, you will end up having some 1,000+ scenarios. Right? So that traditional approach to strategy planning, scenarios, all of those good things is just not relevant anymore. You just need a lighter touch approach to strategy, a much lighter touch approach to strategy where it is more of a guardrail and more conversation based as opposed to some massive thing that you're doing. I think the second thing is just, maybe it's a very obvious point, I think it's just a huge value of execution in a VUCA environment. Because you can't really figure out the long term, because there is no certainty around the long term, the only thing which is real is the now. That's the only thing which is real, and the only thing that really matters is execution. So you need to have an obsessive focus around execution. Yeah? And you need to make that make that happen. And it's interesting, Shreya introduced me as the Chief People Officer. I also have the response, I'm also the head of strategy and strategy execution for Flipkart. And it's interesting, it gives me a very interesting kind of view. And it's fascinating. In strategy, we don't even make kind of long-term plans, but our focus is a lot more on what we call OKRs, objectives and key results, and we do a quarterly process, and the focus is a lot more the quarter, right? Maybe that is also not the right thing. I'm trying to bring a little more of an annual focus. Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, that the shift from kind of strategy to a lot more of an obsessive execution focus. And there is also something in it, because in this VUCA world, where the paths are not clear, you discover the paths. And you discover the paths when you actually execute something. When you execute something, there is something which gets unraveled, right? And that is how you connect the dots. VUCA world is not about looking forward like this. It is about connecting the dots. It is about connecting the dots, and the dots get unraveled when you actually execute and you put some runs on the board. The third thing I want to say about speed and agility is being very close to the customer. When everything is moving so rapidly and is so uncertain, the one thing that you have to really anchor on, be close to, is the customer. Yeah, so in terms of your organization structure, in terms of the way you operate, in terms of what you prioritize, just being very, very close, direct with the customer. It is perhaps a home truth, right? It is something which all of us take as, of course, it is customer first, but it is easier said than done. Yeah. And the fourth thing I would want to say in terms of speed and agility is around talent. That in a world where things will change, you may not be able to define jobs very precisely. Yeah. It has implications in terms of talent. It has implications in terms of specialist versus generalist. So as Flipkart, we have tended to, we may have done many things wrong, but I think something which we have done exceptionally well is just around talent. I think we have, whether we thought of it as VUCA or not, I don't know, but we've always indexed on very, very high quality talent. Very, very high quality talent, because when you need agility, it is that high talent, high quality talent, that is really the only way you can deliver in a world where everything is changing. And also, we have tended to index a lot more on intrinsics and generalist talent as opposed to specialist talent. Yeah. So those are four things, I want to mention under my first theme, which is speed and agility. Yeah, which is about strategy needing to be agile, this execution focus, very close to customer, and talent quality. My second theme is around anchors. In a world which is volatile, where things are moving like this, which is uncertain, where you don't know you're going to go left, right, you need to anchor onto something. You need North Stars. You need North Stars, that this is where I'm going, this is true north. Yeah? And strategy is not your true north here, because strategy can keep on changing. So I think there are two things which are fundamental anchors which an organization needs to be very clear about. The first is your purpose. Whether you call it the mission, whether you call it the purpose, you can use different names, but fundamentally, why do you exist? So in our case, it is about, we exist, Flipkart exists to transform commerce in India through technology. Transform commerce in India through technology and helping Indians lead a better life. Helping 1 billion Indians lead a better life. That's our purpose. Our strategy has kept on changing, and I think will keep on evolving. Yeah? And whenever we have this state of confusion, yeah, we always anchor back on that purpose, that this is why we're all here. This is why we are here. Yeah? So I think that purpose is a very, very critical thing. The second is about values. Aspects of your culture may keep on evolving, but the values are something which hold you together. Yeah? And I think they're as important as your purpose. Yeah? Purpose is where you want to go, why you have come together, but the how of it is driven by values. For us, our values have stayed very consistent. It is about customer, it is about bias for action, it is about audacity. That's a word we like to use, which is thinking big and changing the paradigm. It is about independence of thought. Yeah? So those are some of our values, which again kind of are a true north. Yeah? I was thinking about anchors, and there is a third thing which I'm unclear about, but let me put it down. Yeah? So I'm very clear about purpose, I'm very clear about values. The third is about team. Yeah? So I think it would be good for the team to be an anchor through the journey. It hasn't proven to be the case for us. Yeah? We have founders who have been constant, and I think that's a great anchor. But in terms of team, we have changed and we've evolved. And I'm still not clear, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I'm still not clear that is it the VUCA environment where everything keeps on changing and maybe you need very team, or perhaps we were not patient enough. Yeah, and maybe change too fast. I don't know, but I'll just put it out there. Yeah, so at least what I'm saying definitely purpose and values are very important anchors. Team is something to be thought about. I think it would be nice for the team to be an anchor, but there is also a practical reality check that in the VUCA world, can you really say that the team will be a constant, the leadership team? Okay, so that was second, which was about anchors. The third is just about simplicity. VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex. Complex. See, complexity, a complex situation breeds more complexity. A complex situation breeds complex responses. Yeah? It breeds complex organizational structures. It breeds complex organizational processes. It just multiplies, and it just becomes crazy. It becomes like unmanageable, and that's sometimes where I find our industry. I know how many people here work in the e-commerce industry. Not too many. E-commerce, if you think about it, is not one industry. It is like a technology kind of front. Then you have actually the main industry is supply chain, because the bulk of your people, bulk of what you do is actually supply chain, and then you have kind of business guys, who may not be very different from a Unilever or P&G. So it's a very complex beast. And if you I look at our size, 40,000 people. 70 million registered customers, close to 500,000 of daily transactions. It's maddening. It is. If you look at the scale of it, it is quite crazy. All of that in like 7-8 years. Yeah, and I think that has bred a lot of complexity. Yeah, and also, so there is. I think there's a huge thing about simplification. It is about simplification of organizational structures. It is about simplification of processes. I think that is the only way. It's very difficult. You have to flow against the current, but that is the only way of addressing that complexity. For us, our org structures have kept on changing, because in a VUCA environment, your business priorities keep on changing. Conventional logic is that your organizational structure has to map onto your business priorities, and on a monthly basis, you keep on changing your organizational structure. Clearly, there has to be a simpler way of thinking about organizational structure, which maybe is not classical, but but something simpler. So that's the third paradigm I would like you to think about. The fourth is about collaboration. In a very complex and ambiguous environment. Clearly, you can't do it alone, and you can't do it in a top-down fashion. I think this whole VUCA world is finally, the death knell for kind of the top-down hierarchical management structures. Absolutely. It just ain't going to work. Many organizations are still like that. I would say majority are still like that. But it just is not going to work, and empowerment is not just a nice buzzword, because you just at a central level you can't control everything. It has to be a lot more of a self-generating organism, which is, it has to be at some level like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, yeah. So that's like a bad kind of analogy, but think about it, they just mushroom, right? But still they are effective in what they're trying to do. I'm sorry, it's a bad analogy, but it's a bit like that. It has to be a self-generating, organism, which just grows, right? So that empowerment, I think, is very, very important aspect of collaboration. And clearly, to make that empowerment happen in this environment, communication becomes absolutely critical, yeah, because things are just changing so rapidly. It is about internal collaboration, but I think it is also about external collaboration. So, if I look at Flipkart, we have Flipkart, we have the Flipkart group, which is Myntra, eCart, there are a number of companies within our group. That's one circle. Then we have another circle of maybe 20 plus startups, either which we own entirely or substantially or have participation in. A very conscious part of our strategy, because we know we just can't do it alone. Yeah. So we have we have this kind of the next level circle, and then of course we have our partners. We have brands who are partners. We have lakhs of sellers who are on our platform. They're our partners. So there is absolutely no way. You can do it alone. You can't do it alone sitting in an ivory tower. You need everybody to be just doing it on their own, and you can't do it as whatever boundary you define. You need to keep on challenging, expanding the boundaries. So that's the fourth thing, which is about collaboration. The fifth is about learning. That you need to keep on. You have to keep on learning. It's just whatever you know becomes irrelevant, outdated very, very quickly. It is about your personal learning. You have to keep on growing. And in that, I think that's something which all of us recognize, but I think there's a deeper point, which I want to talk about, which is about hubris. And leaders, I think in every kind of success is the seeds of your failure. And I find that very few leaders, whether they're individual leaders or they're organization leaders, survive, are stable. Yeah? And I think the key reason is hubris. It goes to your head, you think you know it all, you are there, you're God's gift to mankind, and that's the seed of your downfall, right? Because that's when you stop listening, you get arrogant, and when you stop listening, you stop learning, and that's when you make the catastrophic mistakes. Yeah. So I think as HR professionals, that is, I think, something very fundamental for us to think about. Hubris. How do you coach, right? Humility. I think humility is a fundamental quality for any leader, any organization to sustain. Without humility, you can't sustain. You'll be a one-trick pony. Yeah. So I think that humility is the core to learning and is core to survival in a VUCA world. It's also about organizational learning. As an organization, how do you continue learning? And that's where experimentation, innovation has a great role to play. It's absolutely critical, but recognizing that you're going to have a very high failure rate. You're going to have a very, very high failure rate. Because we say we are going to experiment, innovate, but we somehow expect each of those things to actually work out. That won't happen, and in this world, it will happen even less so. Yeah. So that was my fifth point, which was about learning, and my sixth point is about resilience. Yeah. So it's again both at a personal level and at an organizational level. At a personal level first, whatever you do, you will get knocked out. So take it easy. Yeah. So you're not, there is nothing like, you will always win. You will take punches. Whatever you do, then you will try to duck. You will have to take punches. Yeah. You will have to take the 8 count. It will happen. Yeah. It will happen. Absolutely. So reconcile to it. Yeah. And therefore the ability to bounce back in a leader, in a management team is absolutely critical. And that's something which again as HR leaders is something for us to reflect on. How do we identify that? How do we coach people on that? I think there is a second aspect which is also about managing this complexity. See, this whole world, it is, you have to work on dual tracks. It is complex, you have to manage complexity, but you have to try to simplify. You have to execute in the now, but you do need to have these anchors and always keep on reminding yourself of your true north. It is complex. It is, this working in two speeds is very, very disorienting. Leaders find that to be very difficult, and that's something, again, this how do you work at this dual speed is something to think about. And I think that is where the organizational imperative of change management, again, HR's role in that is absolutely critical, and I'm sure this group is very, very aware of that. I would like to end on a final note again around resilience, that given this world that we are in, this VUCA world, I think when I talked about anchors, and those anchors were organizational anchors, but having personal anchors is also very, very critical. I think that's if you look at what drives resilience, I think personal anchors are a very, very big driver of that resilience. So for me, it's my family. It's my family. It's sports. Yeah, I love sports, and it is about spirituality. It is about I've been doing something called art of living for 15 plus years, and that's a very important anchor for me. That whatever happens, that always brings me back home inside. Yeah. So I think that as you think about it, and there are many things to think about as professionals, as organizations, I think also there is something to reflect on as individuals, that in this VUCA world, how do we find that anchor within? So I'd like to end, so those are the 6 things that I would really like you to think about. Speed and agility, anchors, your true north, collaboration, learning, resilience, collaboration. Those are the 6 things I would really like you to think about. Let me stop now. I know we're running a little out of time for questions, but I would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions.